Hello, everybody, and welcome into Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer: nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of Pegasus Resources, a diversified junior Canadian mineral exploration company advancing high potential uranium projects in Utah. It's Chris Timmons. Great to have you back on the show.
Great to be back, Jesse. Pleasure to see you again. How you been?
Been very well, thank you. What has not been doing so well is the uranium sector, which we're going to get to in just a moment. Sentiment, rock bottom, equities dramatically fallen in many cases. And it seems to be continuing to happen day by day. We're not seeing much of a respite. But before we get on to the current downturn in the equities, I wanted to start by opening it up to you to tell us about the main themes and trends you're currently watching when it comes to uranium and nuclear energy that you think more investors should be paying attention to?
Well, like you said, the sector itself's been getting pretty beat up here for the last little bit. But I mean, there's lots of good stuff going on. And of course, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think we've been beat with the good news stick for so long here that when it comes out, we're kind of just numb to it now. And the whole sector, of course, bleeding down while all these positive events happen is just, it's confusing people, honestly. They just don't know what to think about it. But there's lots of good stuff happening. We know it as, again, we've heard it all before. More reactors coming back online that have been shut down. I mean, even Germany's now talking about bringing on 6 of their reactors. Supply issues continue. Every time we turn around, someone's not meeting a deadline, someone's changing their forecasts. So as it goes, we're not getting more uranium into the market, we're actually getting less. And the growth story for your energy just keeps going and going and going. Like one that we're not hearing much about is the coming robots. Like this robot stuff, like I was originally thinking this was going to be like a 2030 story, but if you've been following it all in the last month or so, the growth there is getting really crazy. Like they're now selling robots for under $20,000. I mean, we could see a situation where these robots get cheap enough that they could be the next iPhone. Like, that trend where people just really want to have something. I mean, that's going to be a pricey bit, but if they can get these things cheap enough, this could be an iPhone situation. And honestly, if that were to happen, the power demand that would put on the grid would be insane. Like even these Tesla robots, they burn a lot of power. You'll be charging them a couple times a day just to do household chores. So I think there's a real big thing here. And I mean, I was done some of the math on it. If 100 million Americans decide to get a robot for their house, that's another 8 to 12 nuclear reactors in power we need to put onto the grid. And that's baseload power. We can't fill that with renewables and all that stuff. So I think there's a lot of stuff happening. There's some more growth potential coming down. And I think we might see the whole robot AI stuff, change and turn into another energy boom for us. Obviously, AI is still drawing lots of power and everything. So, as far as I'm concerned, this uranium story is just getting better as the days go on. Obviously, we're going to get through the sentiment factor, of course, but I love it and I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought on the robot situation. I was not aware that they'd gotten that advanced, and 20,000 is not a small amount of money, but you could see, as technology often does, as it scales and as mass adoption begins, those prices tend to go down. So certainly not out of the question. We definitely need to talk about the current downtrend in uranium stocks, the rock bottom sentiment. There are people throwing in the towel left and right on Uranium X, claiming the thesis is dead. It's all over. They've been led astray by XYZ newsletter writer who has sold them a dream and a hope that doesn't exist. And this seems to be a common theme popping up. Now, of course, this is the vocal minority who actually speak up and write this stuff. But nonetheless, we are seeing the sector in quite a downtrend. It's funny, somebody posted a meme on X, which I think I shared, that showed two older people in front of a computer, and it said, "Okay, honey, they told us to just wait 5 years and not look at it. So now let's take a look and see if we've achieved our financial goals." And it's like, and hashtag uranium, which I think is quite apt, but it kind of plays into the fact that all the positive news that you were talking about, we've had so much of it. We're seeing so many difficulties with bringing additional supply online. The thesis seems to be stronger than ever. I think this is a case of it can take much longer to play out than people think. Cycles aren't always an A to B, play out like people think they're going to. What are your thoughts on sentiment and the current pricing of uranium equities?
Well, let's cover the sentiment on Twitter X. Oh, that's it's so negative right now. I mean, I've been following the uranium sector on that side for about since 2020, and I don't think I've ever seen it as bad as it is right now. And I mean, I can't blame investors. There's a lot of people that round tripped from 2020 to 2025. They're right back where they started, and you can't blame them. That's painful when if you didn't take any profits during that run between 20 and 2025, it's going to be painful for you. And I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of us, like, I'm a long-term investor. I've done this myself. I've written some stuff up higher than I should have, never took a profit, wrote it back down. But then down the road, it's paid off for me. So, I mean, I'm not a trader. I tend to hold things long-term myself. So, I'm just going to ride it out as an investor at this point. I believe in the thesis, so I'm going to ride it out. And as far as like the X sentiment goes, yourself, like you said, the vocal majority. I wonder how much of it is manufactured just to serve a purpose, because we know people love to do things, manipulate markets and stuff like that. So, when you're over there, take it with a grain of salt, do your own diligence at the end of the day and really decide what's going on. But I get it. There's a lot of pain out here. And honestly, it's pain across the board. I mean, look, the big seven are having nothing but pain. They're down, what, 15, 16% in the last few months. Like, this is not just a uranium sector moment we're having here. We're actually living through some downturns in a lot of sectors, and it's just coming to roost here as well. And until the sentiment in general changes, it's going to be a tough market for everyone involved. I mean, look at the gold juniors. They haven't picked up yet. And look where gold's at. It's hitting all-time highs like every week, multiple times a week. And the juniors are just lagging along. The risk off aspect of the market is still here. And that's really what it comes down to. Even though everything's bullish, the risk off is still here. And I think we just got to ride out these sentiment changes. But for me, I mean, I'm just going to ride it out. I don't know what else to say about it. Everything says we're in the right place and we're doing the right thing. So believe in yourself, I guess.
Yeah, I completely concur there. I'm also not a trader. I have not taken profits. I think, like you said, it's more about patiently waiting because the thesis is so strong fundamentally. The supply deficits are there. All the ingredients are there. I just think people's expectations, people get hype. This happens in the silver space as well. There tends to be a certain hype surrounding it where people believe, okay, it could go parabolic at any time and then I'm going to retire. People have these insane
This
expectations.
is the
It's
year.
not really how it works. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I think one of the reasons, and maybe you could provide some insight here, one of the reasons could be how difficult it is to track the price of uranium because all of the retail investors look at the spot price, which technically doesn't mean anything because it's so thinly traded by such a small number of traders. It's a lot of flipping pounds back and forth to make a few dollars here and there. It's financial transactions. This is not the real representation of utilities purchasing supply for their long-term reactor needs. And yet, because it is what retail investors pay attention to, by proxy, it does actually matter, even though technically it doesn't. And then even when we look to obviously the long-term price is doing quite good, but the long-term price is also difficult to gauge because there's questions about how accurately that's reported too, considering how many long-term contracts have NDAs attached to them. So the whole pricing, I mean, there's no real futures market to speak of. It's very tough to keep track of, okay, how much is a pound of uranium actually worth? Do you think that's one of the reasons that we see people throwing in the towel and giving up and because they're watching the spot price too closely? And how important is it, do you think, for investors in the uranium space to pay attention to the spot price?
It is a bellwether. I mean, you can say how useful it is or not, but it is a bellwether. When spot's moving, people pay attention to it, like you said, and when it's going down, people pay attention to it. I don't think it's a good indicator to use, especially when you said it's like thinly traded. And like you said, with the term markets, we don't really know what's going on over there because like you said, a lot of stuff's under NDA. We don't know. It's whoever is reporting their sales on the term market are either a public traded company, so they have some obligations, not complete obligations because NDAs still work over there too. So really, we've said we don't get the true value of the information that's there. I think at the end of the day, it's really about just doing your own work. Like there is a lot of data out there you can go out and source. It takes time for sure, but you can actually see when these places are have contracted in the past. So you can go through and parse out yourself what's going on in the term market, what's going on with the uranium, who's purchasing it, or not who so much, but how much is getting purchased every year and stuff like that. It takes a lot of work. But if someone's willing to do that work, I think they'd see what we see, that this market is very strong under the undercover, because we can't see any of it. So I think it's just a matter of the spot price is just a distraction at this point, really, for a lot of people. And I don't think you can fix it, though. That's just really what it comes down to. There's a lot of people in the uranium sector that are really knowledgeable and understand what's going on, like any sector. But then there's a whole crowd of generalists that just kind of go with the flow, follow around what's getting hot, what's not, and they're chasing the momentum. And those guys are just going to do what the market says they're going to do. So it's just a matter of, I don't know, education for the long-term investor. And for the guys that want to trade it, they're just going to trade it. And the spot price is probably going to be one of the indicators they use to start pushing their momentum into the market to try and get these things heated up and start trading. I mean, I've said this before. Early stage sectors like uranium, they're full of momentum traders. That's usually how they start off. They start off with lots of people who are speculators. I'm a speculator. I like to get in early. I don't flip and trade, but I do like to get in early. But there's a whole crowd of people out there that make money on this speculation, and they drive huge volume. And you know yourself, if volume comes into a stock or an equity or anything, it brings more volume. And that's just the nature of the trade. I think it's shifting here with uranium. I mean, this market is maturing. This bull market turns into a decade-long plus bull market. That's really going to mature this sector, because every time the momentum traders get out, they're more fundamentalists are buying those shares up, which means they're going to stay off the market, which means as the momentum traders work, they're going to have to work harder to get those profits they want. They're going to still get them for sure, because momentum is momentum at the end of the day, but it's building a new base every time we have these pullbacks, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong here, but honestly, like from following other sectors and stuff, as these guys come out and fundamentalists come in and buy up the shares, you start building new bases. So I think it's just going to progressively get stronger and stronger as time goes on. Obviously, your juniors, explorers, and stuff, they're still going to be momentum based, because I mean, that's just the nature of the industry. If there's no momentum in the junior space, there's just no excitement. So, but as far as like all your near-term producers and stuff, it's a very bullish market for all them guys. And I think it's just a matter of doing your work and being patient.
Absolutely. I want to talk about how things are developing in the U.S. in regards to energy. The current Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, seems intent on building up nuclear energy capacity. The Trump administration has declared an energy emergency. We've seen an executive order signed titled Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production. How could this change the game when it comes to the uranium and nuclear industry in America?
There's a lot in that executive order, like a very lot. One of the easiest things to look at is permitting. They've just streamlined permitting for anything that's on federal land. State land and stuff's always been pretty straightforward, but to get a federal permit on forestries and stuff like that, it can run you up to 2 years. So that's the easiest thing that they just did. They opened up the federal lands for permitting, which means we can actually go out there and start doing work to anyone who has those properties on federal land. Another thing they did with federal lands is they're now looking to see what federal lands have critical minerals on them. So like we'll use uranium because that's what we're here today about. Uranium, we know where most of the uranium is in places like Utah. Like through the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and even into the early 80s, there was drilling all over the place down there. We really have a rough idea where most of this is. And in that executive order, they actually talk about that. They're going to go through these maps and find where all these critical minerals are. And any of the ones that the Department of Defense finds important, or any other industry that's related to the government sees importance in, they're able now to push their funding and everything into these projects, even without resource estimates. Prior to this, having a resource estimate was almost key to get anything funded, like a grant, a loan, especially where you're dealing with the government or any even private sector people. They want to know you have a resource estimate. That's not what's happening in the States. We don't have resource estimates for a lot of this stuff. We just know it's there. We know it was drilled. We can put the math and do it ourselves, but there's nothing public. So public companies like me can't talk about what we have if it's not in a report that was put out into the public. We can't write our own and do it. Well, with this, what they're talking about now is as long as they know there's something there and they think it's viable, you're now able to get funding. Now, how does that work for the juniors? We don't know yet, but it's opening the door that you can actually take advantage of some more funding, which will be huge. It's really going to be huge for people like the near-term developers, or if someone who has a mill looking for the money to refurbish it. Those guys are now have the doors open to them. And I bet you right now there's lots of meetings going on with Congress across the USA for all these US assets that they're trying to figure out where's the money for us, how's it going to get into our pockets, and where can we spend it, and when can we get this stuff moving. And if this developers get moving in the States, it's going to pull the juniors up real fast. Utah, 3 mills, one's operating, one needs a refurb, one plans to be built. Well, with that executive order, all of those now look like they could be brought into production easily by 2030. If the money's there, it'll happen. We can find the labor to build it all, so that's not a big deal. We will find the labor. We will build this stuff. If we bring on those 3 mills just in Utah, the juniors need to step up and find more resources. So I think it's a real great opportunity across the board, whether it's in the junior side, right up to the producers. And I mean, the US has only two companies really producing uranium right now. So there's a real big opportunity down there. And honestly, what they've opened up for us is great. And I think the USA is going to get really exciting once people really see what's going to come out of these programs. Again, it's still early. We don't know where it's going to all land. Probably be the end of April before we start getting some clarity on all this stuff. But when you go through that bill, it's loaded with exciting stuff in there, and especially for a junior or a near-term developer. So I'm excited, and I'm glad I'm in the USA, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect segue into diving into Pegasus Resources and how you fit into the uranium picture. Last time I had you on the show was April of last year. Could you give us an overview of the company for those who are new to the show, and also highlight the progress that you've made since we had our last discussion?
Well, since we had our last discussion, I'm actually now considered a pure play. So we just closed a deal here with Ashley Gold. So we got rid of our gold property. So now we're a uranium pure play. So we have one Athabasca property. And of course, we've got our 2 properties in Utah. We're only 3 kilometers away from each other. So we got Jupiter and our Energy Sands project. Both those are uranium projects. Energy Sands was a past producer, and we do have some historical drilling, about 19 drill holes on it. Jupiter, it was scheduled to be mined out actually in the 1980s. And the only reason it didn't get mined is because 3 Mile Island happened. And of course, the industry shut down. So it created an opportunity for us. The property has over 200 drill holes across it. We don't have all the gamma logs for it, but we have most of the gamma logs for it. So we have a really good internal realization of what's on the property. And for us, it's very exciting. Knowing that it was supposed to get mined out in the 1980s, through a mine shaft just to the southeast of us called the Probe Mine, is very encouraging for us. We've done some work ourselves. We do have internally some ideas of what kind of poundage is sitting on the site. Obviously, we're trying to figure out how to get that in. Unfortunately, it'll probably be through drilling. We'll probably have to go get the drilling program and then get the data out into the markets that way. So it's going to be a few more steps, and it's going to take a little bit to get it out. But I think once we do that drill program, people see what we have down here at Jupiter specifically. They're going to be very excited, and I think it's going to create a lot of value. What else am I forgetting? I got going here, and I kind of lost my train of thought, Jesse.
Well, just any other progress you'd like to highlight
Yeah.
since April of last year.
We do have our drilling permits. That's a big one. We've got our drill permits for that property. So it's just a matter of we need to raise some money. We've got a few different options here to get the drilling program off. For $400,000 Canadian, which is pretty reasonable, we can drill about 6,000 feet. But for $1 million, we can actually drill 20,000 plus feet. So we were originally looking at doing a smaller program, and I'm kind of glad we didn't, because with what's going on in the United States and everything, I think the larger program is going to be a lot easier to fund going forward here now. And I'm definitely seeing a lot more interest from people calling me up and everything. So we're going to aim for that 1 million target here and try to get that program off this summer. We do have to go and raise some capital for that. There is conversations ongoing constantly about that. And one thing I've really noticed since 2025 has happened, In 2024, I was the one doing the outreach. I was the one reaching out to the retail investors, the high nets. I was the one doing all the contact. That shifted in 2025. So as much as uranium investors think the sentiment sucks out on social media and everything, the people behind the scenes that actually fund a lot of this stuff, they don't see it that way. They're a little patient. They're not in a rush to move forward, but they believe in the industry. And there's conversations happening all across the industry, not just with Pegasus. So as much as the retail crowd's beat up and angry and, the sentiment's just killed, I think it's a very exciting space. And I think we're going to see a lot of stuff come out in the next 6 months.
Well, let's talk about the sale agreement with Ashley Gold for your Icefield property in British Columbia. Then we'll move into diving deeper on Jupiter. I want to read something you said in the press release about the transaction. Our agreement with Ashley Gold represents a significant step in unlocking value from the Icefield property while allowing Pegasus to retain strategic exposure to its potential. So fill us in a little more on the reasoning behind the transaction, and how does Pegasus retain strategic exposure to its potential?
Sure. So really what happened was I really wanted to keep this project inside Pegasus Resources. We wanted to actually do a spin out with this, and that was really what my goal was all along with this property, because we really believe in the value of it. But of course, raising capital, a spin out costs a lot of money. So the reality was is that gold really started to move, and we were sitting on this property and we have no value from it. Like as far as Pegasus investors concerned, when we did this deal, we didn't sell off on the news. So we realized no value for this property as it stands inside Pegasus Resources right now. So what we were trying to do is find an entity out there, another company who is also kind of undervalued, but had really strong projects, because this is it's got lots of exploration done on it, lots of ground programs. It does have some historical drilling back done in 1984, with had amazing numbers, like amazing numbers for copper, gold, silver, all of it. But we wanted to find someone, a company who's in a position to move this forward, but also had we're a little undervalued considering the market conditions. And that's kind of what we found with Ashley Gold. As you might know, we're really strong marketing company. We do a lot of our own marketing, just external. Like I'm out on Twitter all the time, very active doing interviews like this and stuff like that. So we're very strong on the marketing side. And Ashley Gold wasn't really doing a lot of marketing, and they had great projects that were really underappreciated. So we saw an opportunity there to vend this project into them. They have great Ontario projects that they can work year round. And then they'll have our property sitting over there in BC, which is a summertime working project. So it was a good fit for them. They can work year round on their other stuff and do some work over here for Energy Sands. So when we did the deal, we wanted to actually secure enough of the company inside Pegasus, so as the value of this company increases, our investors will realize that. So as it stands right now, we'd have about 10%, give or take, of Ashley Gold if the deal were to close today. It is still being approved by the TSX, so no shares have traded hands yet. This is still all just being discussed and needs to be completed on the exchange side. So once that's done, then we'll start seeing the shares move around. But this will give us 10% of Ashley Gold. We believe that Ashley Gold has the opportunity to strike big on Ontario, and we have extremely high confidence that when they drill the Energy Sands, or sorry, when they drill the Icefield project in BC, there's going to come out with great numbers as well. So really the value for Pegasus is that Ashley Gold could end up being worth more than Pegasus in the near term with some successful drilling programs. Obviously, if we get drilling down there, I hope to make that flip-flop and reverse. But we see a real good opportunity here for us to come in, work with Ashley Gold, create value for everyone, Ashley Gold investors and the Pegasus investors. That answer it for you?
Absolutely, thoroughly. I want to talk about Jupiter a little more. You recently acquired 75% ownership of the drill ready Jupiter project in Utah. You touched on it in the introduction when we started discussing Pegasus. If you could dive into some more details, and you mentioned a drill program's coming up. If you could fill us in on that, and how you plan to capitalize that program as well.
So what we have up here is like we're working on it right now. So it looks like we've got two paleo channels that go across the Jupiter project, and that's just what we've defined from the historical drilling. And I can say that because it's just an interpretation of a geological model. So we also have like three spots that were drilled on the property. One area's got over 90 drill holes that were tightly spaced. which means that we can build a resource off of that. So we have those 90 drill holes that we can build a resource off of it. We do have internal numbers that I can't talk about. We also got another area that's just up to the northwest of the Jupiter project that has about 9, 10 drill holes, all high grade stuff up there, another deposit that we can define. And then we also got another one that we've seen off to the east side of us as well. And all these are running inside paleo channels. With the 200 drill holes, really, we're only so far found about 30, 35 that were considered barren. They ran these drill holes mostly up along the southwestern side, but they also ran fence posts all the way across the north. So we actually have a really good idea where to do all our drilling on this property and start growing the resources as fast as possible. So we're very excited that if we can get down here, split the drilling between Energy Sands and Jupiter, because we really want to get some work done in Energy Sands. Historically speaking, there was some real serious high grade down there, and I would love to go down and drill some of that high grade and see if it's a big enough deposit. We're speculating that there's 1 million to 2 million pounds on Energy Sands, and then you get up to Jupiter, and we're not sure how much is there, but it's well more than 2 million pounds from what we're seeing here. Again, all speculation on our side, just from putting data into models and stuff like that. But we're really excited about it. We've got the mine portal to the southeast that was actually supposed to mine out the area. So I'm not sure what kind of shape that mine shaft is in, but if it's in half decent shape, there's an opportunity there where you could actually make a deal with the owners of that, which is Encore Energy, and have that brought into production. Again, speculation on my part. We don't have discussions with them or anything like that, anyone. But I love to think about options and ideas. And really, we're in a great area. We've got Western Uranium as our neighbor, who's building a mill just 6 miles up the road from us. That's a huge opportunity right there for a tolling agreement down the road. And Western Uranium's already said publicly to many people that they'd be open to doing that with anyone in the area. So if we're in a position to offer them some more, great opportunity for us. We know there's other players in the area that are looking to start adding to their resources. So I think we're in a really strong position here, actually. We have multiple deposits on our property. It's just a matter of drilling them, showing the public what we hold. And I think with what's going on in the USA, that's going to happen this year for us. We're going to get that drill program off, and people are really going to see what we have down here.
And talk to us a bit more about the Energy Sands property and your plans there for 2025. You mentioned it's only 3 kilometers away from the Jupiter project, correct? So I'm guessing you're going to be able to kind of work on both properties at once. Is that the plan?
That is actually, yeah. The permit covers both properties because they are so close together. So it's one permit, it's both properties. We have a total of 65 drill targets between all the properties. And we're looking to do about probably 20% down in Energy Sands. Just because if we can do 20,000 feet of drilling, we can put 7,000 feet of drilling down there and start proving out another deposit. That's really going to add value to that area as well, which would be great. If we can do one program and prove out both properties, I think it's a huge value add for our investors down the road. So that's really what we're going to focus on there. Energy Sands was a past producer. So back in the 1950s, they were producing uranium off this property. There is one small historical estimate attached to the property. It's only like 45,000 pounds of uranium. Nothing huge, nothing, But that area where that small resource was never actually defined. It was just punched a few holes. So we're excited to get down and check that out as well, because that area already has 45,000, and we can prove that it's actually a bigger deposit through drilling. And there's no drilling there to prove either way. So it's an open target for us to go down and start trying to grow a resource on Energy Sands. So we've got some great stuff there as well. And again, historically speaking, we actually had a 3% uranium intercept on the property back in 1975 or 1976. So there's some serious high-grade potential on that site. So we'd love to get down there and drill, and that makes some great headlines.
No doubt. Is there anything we haven't yet covered, or anything you think it's important to emphasize to potential shareholders when it comes to Pegasus Resources?
We're a pure player uranium company as it stands right now. I think that's a big step for us. We're going to stay focused on our Utah projects because we think that's where the most growth is going to take place. Just keep an eye on the USA, honestly, Jesse. What's going on down there is very bullish for anything mining. I mean, they even added gold to their critical minerals list. So I just say keep an eye on the USA. Keep an eye on Pegasus Resources. We're going to get that drill program off this year, one way or another. And I think it's going to be a great year for uranium. It might take some take some time, but I really think 2025 we're going to start seeing the bottom come in, and maybe even see this thing take off again. I mean, I'm an optimistic person, so I'm going to be optimistic, but I think we'll see the bottom at the very least. But I'm more bullish than that.
Well, great. I'm going to put a link in the description below to Pegasus Resources website as well as social media for people who want to follow the company. Chris, thank you once again. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge on the uranium sector and Pegasus with us.
Oh, it was a great time, Jesse. Always appreciate it. Have a great one.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.